Was there a turning point for you? Like, were you always kind of cynical of these things, or was there some kind of turning point in your experiences that made you say, well, hold on a second, the things that I've heard and been exposed to and experienced, it's not actually what they've said it is, that there's something deeper and bigger going on here?
I mean, I think it was a little bit like Hemingway's description of going broke, gradually and then all at once. Yeah. So just, spending my life there, I was never that impressed by the people I lived around. I liked them a lot, but I didn't think they were smarter than me or wiser than me because I know them, Right. So I was never, and I lived in a world where like everyone went to Harvard, My grandfather went to Yale, like he was an alcoholic. Like that didn't mean, you know what I mean? Like I'm not impressed by merit badges and never have been.
Right.
So, but I wasn't against the system at all. Really what changed me was watching Trump in 2015. And I knew Trump before, I mean, because I'm in the media, so I'd known Trump, not well, but I'd known him for, 15 years before, right? A long time. And I was like, I thought he was kind of a buffoon. I still think that sometimes. But what changed my view wasn't Trump, it was the reaction to Trump among my neighbors. So Trump would say something in his like florid orange way, like, why are we funding NATO? And that was the one that got me. I remember this. And I never questioned NATO. Because I grew up during the Cold War, and NATO was the bulwark against Soviet aggression into Western Europe. And like my dad worked for the government. So like we were totally for NATO. Why wouldn't you be? But that ended in August of 1991. I was on my honeymoon when the Soviet Union collapsed, but we still had NATO in 2015. Like, what was the point? And I'd never thought about it in my life. And Trump's like, why are we funding NATO? And I thought that was a really interesting question. Okay, well, I don't know why. What's the answer? And my neighbors are like, shut up! He must be killed! It's like, okay, but maybe shut up, maybe he must be killed. But what's the answer to why are we funding NATO? Is there a good reason? Shut up!
Yeah.
They were so hysterical about obvious and basically common sense questions about the way things were working that was a tell to me. I was stunned by it, actually. I was like, reasonable people who are acting out of honorable motives should be happy or at least willing to explain themselves. Like, hey, Tulsi, why are you doing that? If you're like, shut up, then that tells me like you're doing something wrong. If you're like, well, here's why I'm doing it. You may disagree, but here's why.
Yeah.
They couldn't do that on any topic. Immigration policy. I've never been like, my best friend's an immigrant. I've never been against like immigrants or anything, but I was like, you should have control of your border. And Trump, in his Trumpian way, was basically arguing for that. They just couldn't deal. They couldn't deal with any questions about the way things were then operating. And when I saw that just completely exploded my view of the system. I was like, this system is a lot more fragile than I realized. It's a lot less legitimate than I realized. And then just the whole 4 years of Trump. And like, he'd say something that was like truly insane. Like, the intel agencies are spying on me. And you're like, oh, okay, the intel agencies are not spying on, like, what, you know what I mean?
Right.
What are you like, was the moon landing fake too?
Right.
And then you'd find out like a year later, actually the intel agencies were spying on him. And then everyone would be like, well, they had to. Wait, and you'd be like, wait, what? First of all, he was right. Second, I don't care whether I don't care who the president is. You can't spy on the president because he works for you. That's an attack on our system. No, it's totally fine. I would see stuff like that, and I was just like, you know what? I'm out. And we ultimately left the city, and we still have a million friends there. I have some of my closest relatives still live there. But I really became convinced that the system was not going to be enduring.